My name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to get to know a woman who has the Midas touch. She possesses gold records, a Golden Globe Award, and a golden lifestyle, married to one of the richest men in the world. Her career and personal life has been as controversial as she is provocative and vivacious. Her fame, beauty, and talent create a sensation wherever she goes, whether it's starring in movies, appearing on stage in her nightclub review, singing in concert, or making hit records. She's as good as gold. And proving her worth, she has received rave reviews for her one-woman concert at Carnegie Hall. She is small in size, but big in talent, truly a golden girl. She's Pia Zadora, and let's get to know her right after these messages, so please stay right there. I'm Arlene Herson, and we're here with Pia Zadora in her apartment in New York, and I thank you very much for having us here. The only thing is, I must say, it's delightful to be here, but I had to take my shoes off to come into your apartment.
That's for sanitary reasons, Arlene. It's because the baby crawls around on the floor, and it just, you know, in Chinese houses they do that. They take their shoes off, and I felt that if I was going to let her crawl around, it's better not to wear shoes.
Right, terrific.
Yeah.
This is the first interview I have ever done without any shoes on, I must say. But it's terrific, and the apartment is beautiful, and everything is white, and I have to say there have been so many changes in your life. The last time I interviewed you was in a different apartment. You lived at the Sherry Netherlands.
Right.
Now we're here at your apartment on Fifth Avenue. That, not only that changed, your career is changing. I mentioned that I saw you at Carnegie Hall. You were wonderful.
Thank you.
have a marvelous voice. What made you make that kind of change in your career now?
Well, I was kind of going back to my roots in a way, because I started singing, and I started singing this kind of music 6 or 7 years ago when I was an opening act for Frank Sinatra, and he's the one who really turned me on to doing the standards, which are the songs I'm doing now on Pia and Phil, the album, which is doing very well. And it's an exciting turn for me. And I enjoy singing, I enjoy the audience response. I started on Broadway, so for me, musical comedy, the live stage, really is the thing. And I adore it.
But Carnegie Hall is another thing. I mean, you were, and we certainly going to talk about...
It took 10 years off my life. It really did.
That's what I meant. You're there all alone. Carnegie Hall.
All of a sudden, I opened at the Beverly Theater, which was trying out my new area, my new field, and got terrific reviews, and then next thing was Carnegie Hall, and I really was shaking in my boots, because first of all, New York is my hometown, and then Carnegie Hall is Carnegie Hall. You know, what do you do after Carnegie Hall? And it was fabulous, and then Johnny Carson called me, and I was on The Tonight Show a week later, and everything has just been fabulous.
Yeah, terrific. One more thing about that night that was very special. Pia Zadora herself, Carnegie Hall one-woman show. Your father was the concert master.
Yes, he
playing
was.
the violin.
It was very exciting to have him. We worked together on Broadway, but we were always in separate shows. I remember when I was doing Fiddler on the Roof, he was doing Hello Dolly. So he was right around the corner, and he'd come and pick me up after the show and drop me at the theater before. But we never really worked together on the same stage.
Well, I should hope he picked you up, because when you did Fiddler on the Roof, you were 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
You weren't exactly going to the theater by yourself.
That's right.
Was he the one that motivated you, coming from a musical family?
Well, he motivated me to start playing an instrument. I started playing violin when I was 4 years old, and then I gave that up and went to the piano. And this gave me a good base musically, but really how I got started was an accident.
How? How by accident?
Well, I was 6 years old, and I was going to a parochial school, Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills, and the nuns thought I was socially retarded because I was very, very quiet. I was an only child, and I had had a heart condition growing up, so I was pretty sheltered. And they recommended I do something to bring me out of my shell. So my mother sent me to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I took children's courses, and Burgess Meredith discovered me. He was looking for a little girl to co-star in a play with Tallulah Bankhead. And he came and he saw me, and that was it. I went to the audition. My mother didn't want to take me, but they were painting the house that day, and I was allergic to paint. You know, it was one of those things. We went on a fluke. It was a complete fluke. And I got the part, and that was the beginning of the end for me.
You know, so much of what happens, I think, in all of our lives
Is
are
fate.
by accident, being in the right place at the right
Yes,
time.
right.
Even meeting your husband,
Right, which
for
is
instance.
it was another complete coincidence. I was doing a show in Columbus, Ohio, Applause with Alexis Smith, and he's a graduate of Ohio State. And he was down there lecturing on business at the same time and happened to come and see the show and got a crush on me. He always fell in love with singers, and that was it. 4 years later, we were married.
Okay, now we mentioned your husband, but we haven't mentioned who he is. His name is Meshulam Rickless.
Right,
He
otherwise known
is-
as Mr. Zadora, and he loves it.
You know, it's true. I mean, after all, he is a multi-millionaire. He runs a company called Rapid American, and he does kind of act like Mr. Pia Zadora, as if he really doesn't do anything but manage your career. Obviously, that's not true.
No, he doesn't manage my career, but he really is very excited about everything, and he's very secure with himself, so he doesn't mind being Mr. Zadora. You know, he loves when people come and recognize him in restaurants and say, "Oh, you're Pia Zadora's husband."
Okay, that night at Carnegie Hall, too, I mean, he was wonderful. I think he was more excited than you were, as a matter of fact, certainly afterwards at the party. But there's 30 years difference in age.
28.
28, okay,
Yeah.
28.
Well, you know,
That's
I was raised with adults, Arlene. I was brought up in the theater. After 6 years old, I hardly ever went to school. I was tutored, and I just always enjoyed being with adults. I never was comfortable with people my own age. And so the natural turn of events would be for me to marry an older man. Besides the fact that when I was 16 or 17, I was a career woman of 10 years already, and the boys in my class, the boys my age, were just deciding what they were going to major in college. So I needed somebody older. I was really more mature, and to me there is no age difference.
You were 17 when you met him. You married when you were 21.
Right.
In between that time, I understand, I mean, because we do mention how rich he is, and in some ways I think that that's been a detriment for your career, because I think that sometimes people haven't taken you seriously because of that. But there was a time, during that time before you were married, that his business was in trouble. He owed something like $500 million on paper, I read.
That's true.
He was almost broke. But you were still there for him to hold his hand.
When I met him, he was going through a financial crisis, and he was almost bankrupt. And as a matter of fact, when we got married and bought our first house, we had to take a mortgage. And he claims that I brought him back to where he was before because I settled him down. I think he was concentrating on other things. He had just come out of a 28-year marriage, and he was enjoying his freedom. And that was the problem.
That was a problem. You and he was single, and he was going out with lots of...
Right.
But once he saw you, I understand that it was a whirlwind courtship.
Well, that's what he says, but I think he still, for a while, was going with other girls. He was afraid. He knew he was going to marry me, but he was really afraid. You know, it's scary after you end a marriage. It's like going right from the fire into the frying pan. And for a while, it was a problem for him, and he avoided the issue. I remember once I was doing a commercial, and I wouldn't go out with him that night. And he said, "Well, if that's the way you feel," he said, "that'll be the end." And I said, "Well, you know," and I came up to his office and I gave him hell. I said, "If you can't respect my career, how can you expect me to respect you?" And he said, "Well, you know, you're right." And then he took me into the next office and introduced me to 5 girls he was having lunch with.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's when the hair went up on my back, and I said, "I'm going to get this guy."
That's interesting, because I'm sure that most people, because of the difference in your ages, I mean, I kind of understand it being scary, you know, because he married somebody younger than all of his children.
Right.
You have a daughter, Katie, which we're going to speak about
Katie's
now.
younger than his grandchildren.
Younger than his grandchildren.
She's their aunt, and they're
Yeah.
like 2, 4, 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's worked out terrific for you,
terrific.
and we're going to talk some more. We're going to take a break right now, because so much is happening in your life, and so much has happened that I want to talk about, but we'll be back
Great.
in a little while. We're speaking with Pia Zadora. We're here in her apartment in New York, and we'll be right back after these messages, so please stay right there. We're back. We're with my very special guest, Pia Zadora, and we're here in her apartment in New York City. As we mentioned in the beginning of the show, Carnegie Hall. So much is happening in your life. So much has happened in your life, but you got terrific reviews for your concert at Carnegie Hall. Scary, as we said, but it worked out. Now, the critics have not been kind to you in the past. Your 2 last movies, Lonely Lady and Butterfly, did not get good reviews. It must feel terrific now to finally, be getting those reviews. But did the other reviews, the ones that weren't so terrific, did they hurt a lot?
Well, let's say I wasn't thrilled with them, but I understood where they were coming from. I mean, they were lousy films. Lonely Lady was one of the worst films that was ever made. I mean, there were a few worse, but, they didn't warrant good press. I think the press was a little tougher than it would have been if I were just a struggling actress because of who I was and who I'm married to. But I'm really happy that things are positive now, and it is a big change, and it's exciting.
Okay, you're a good actress, and you pick those vehicles, so that therefore the press is going to take shots at you, probably because of who you're married to, and but also because of those kind of films. Lonely Lady, Butterfly, very sexy.
Well, what happened was Butterfly established me as a sex symbol, and also it was very controversial, and I had a very unusual name, and things were just I was married to Mishulem, who produced the film, and Johnny Carson picked up on my name and became his answer to Rula Lenska. So there was a lot of negative press around that, because a sex symbol now is a negative type of a thing, and was then. And the picture itself was based on incest, which was very controversial, and it didn't do well, review-wise, critically. And I think this established me as a sort of a non-serious type of an actress with a lot of controversy around me. And I think the majors were afraid of me. I would have loved to have done Kramer versus Kramer, but nobody offered it to me. And I did Lonely Lady because it was the only thing I was offered, and I wanted to work. And that was it. And I don't regret it.
Yeah, okay, you work hard. When you say you want to work, you're a workaholic, a perfectionist. People that work for you and with you only have the nicest things to say. I have to say, regardless of what the image has been in the past, it's obviously changing now, but there are things that you have done. For instance, the nude scenes. Your husband, I understand, encouraged you to do the nude scenes.
Well, he didn't encourage me to do the nude scenes as per se, go and do nude scenes. He encouraged me, he kind of made me feel comfortable about doing them because he knew I had to do them. If I wanted to do Lonely Lady, there was a certain amount of nudity involved. And, one comes with the other.
Yeah, true. It was in the context of the film, absolutely. One more thing. Penthouse magazine. Pia Zadora. You were on the cover of Penthouse magazine. We have, as a matter of fact, a copy of the magazine here, and we're going to show some of the pictures, not the nude ones. Okay, you were photographed by Bob Guccione.
Yeah.
They are beautiful, beautiful pictures. What made you do that, and how did you feel?
Well, that was again part of Lonely Lady. I was the star of Lonely Lady, and I was chosen to promote it, and it was something I did to promote the film. Bo Derek did the cover of Playboy when she had her films. This was something that was necessary for me to do, and I didn't mind doing it. I thought it was tasteful. They used a lot of stills from the film, and that was it.
Okay, beautiful pictures. Bob Guccione, editor-publisher of Penthouse magazine, he himself doesn't get very good press, but nice man. How did you feel being photographed by Bob Guccione?
Oh, I enjoyed working with him. He's very low-key and very nice, and his pictures are simple. They're not the kind of direct sexuality. They're just normal, casual pictures, brushing your hair. They're more character studies, whether they're nude or clothed, which is what I like about.
New picture of Pia Zadora now. Okay, a mom, a mother. You have a baby who hopefully we're going to see before the show is over. Her name is Katie, named after your character in Butterfly. What made you decide to have a child now?
Well, it was something that I think we neglected when we first got married, because he didn't think I wanted to have a baby. He had children who were older than I was, and I didn't think about it. The time wasn't right then. And then we both got wrapped up in the whirlwind of our careers, of traveling, of being bi-coastal and going to Europe and everything that went with working. I mean, we were working 24 hours a day, both of us. And then all of a sudden I realized it was time for me to have a baby, and I had one.
And how does it feel to be a mom?
Terrific.
Yeah.
It's the greatest feeling in the world. It's a feeling of responsibility. I mean, it kind of sobers you. It puts your feet on the ground. You realize that you have a job to do in this world. You created something, and it's your job to oversee it. And also, it's a great boost to the ego to have this little thing running around calling you mommy. It's wonderful.
You had a tough time, though, a tough labor.
Oh, a 22-hour labor. First labors are always tough, they say, and I was tiny and she was big, and I had exercised till the last minute. I jogged around the reservoir the day before she was born, so my muscles were so tight.
Okay. Yeah, but your muscles being so tight, that actually should have helped. It should have made it better.
Not really.
22 hours.
It's against the theory now. Best thing is not to exercise.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Would you do it again?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to.
You would?
Yeah.
You did an album called Pia and Phil.
Right.
You mentioned Frank Sinatra earlier. You mentioned that he was the one that encouraged you, as I understand, to sing these kind of songs.
Yes, he did. Well, I was his opening act, and at that time, nobody knew who I was. I wasn't Pia Zadora, the media monster from all the films. And I think he felt that they were the right things for my voice, and they were also what his audiences wanted to hear. And I did, and I fell in love with them. I fell in love with singing them live. I was singing The Man That Got Away 7 years ago. Don Costa did an arrangement, which is the same arrangement that I'm using now, and that I kept on Pia and Phil.
You feel comfortable with that music because you've also recorded before that. Before Pia and Phil was an album with Jermaine Jackson.
A single, yeah, When the Rain Begins to Fall, which was the #1 song in Europe last year.
Yeah, you've recorded in Europe, both recorded in Europe. We're going to take a break because you've spent a lot of time performing in Europe, and I kind of wonder if there's a difference between the audiences, which I want to talk about when we come back.
Okay.
We're speaking with Pia Zadora. We're in her apartment in New York City. We'll be right back after these messages, so please don't go away. We're back. We're in Pia Zadora's apartment with Pia Zadora and with a very special guest, Katie Rickless Zadora. There you are in the background. Hello, Katie.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Katie, who am I?
Mommy.
Right. Can you sing? What does TT sing? Do, 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 do. Can you sing?
Do 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 do.
Can you sing Rockabye for Arlene? Down the tree.
Tap.
Right. How about Twinkle, Twinkle, Little
Tap.
Star? Now, can you clap? Can you clap for yourself? Very good. How does the baby cry? Show Arlene. Oh, show Arlene again. How's the baby cry? Right. Now, what does the Indian say? Oh, yeah. Very good. You're a good girl. I love you.
I do do.
I do too.
Do you know that if we rehearse that, it could not have been better. She is certainly her mother's daughter.
She is. Lights, that's right. She's the lights. Give me a kiss. Mwah, thank you. Do, 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 do. Okay, we'll see you later. It's not up, it's down. Say down. Down. Please? Please, Pia?
Pia.
Okay. Goodbye.
No, that is absolutely terrific. I must say, she is so at ease. She's only 14 months old. Now,
Right,
this is
right.
not the usual child, obviously not the usual parents, but is she at ease this time all the time
Yeah,
with
she's
people?
used to being with people. Ever since she was a little baby, she was with people. So she's very comfortable. And she never went through that shy stage. Some of them go through that stage because I think she just passed through it because of her lifestyle.
Different from yours, okay? Now, obviously, you were shy, and you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier that you had a heart problem as a child.
Yeah, just a murmur that they watched for a while.
No problem now, today?
No.
Not at all?
Not
Okay,
yet.
You don't have to, no, don't say not yet. Yeah, no problem
No, I'm fine
at all.
now.
Yeah. Your mother, I met your mother at Carnegie Hall because
Uh-huh.
the family unit is so close. She was eating vegetables.
My mother's a vegetarian, sometimes when she's in a good mood. She always has loved to eat vegetables, and really it's the best thing for you. I try to eat vegetables myself and I don't eat meat.
At all?
No.
Did you ever?
Oh yeah, I was raised on steaks because for my mother, she didn't have time to cook. So the easiest thing when we would come home would be to throw a steak in. But at that time, there was no awareness of the fact that red meat is not good for you.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
But it didn't hurt me. I'm fine.
Yeah. Your mother's in the business also. When we,
My mother is a wardrobe mistress and costume designer. She was with Cats for a while, and she was with the New York City Opera Company. But she sang with Frank Sinatra 40 years ago in a little club in New Jersey.
Isn't that
She and her
interesting?
sister had a singing team, and they would MC talent shows. So,
Well, there's no doubt where your mother's daughter got her talent from, and there's no doubt where your daughter got her talent from? I mean, obviously she's performing even now, but we mentioned some of the things that you have done, and now it's so different. But I just kind of wonder, when you don't get the good reviews, when you mentioned Johnny Carson and he had the Pia Zadora jokes, how do you then get back on the stage again? Does it bother you?
Well, I developed a sort of a veneer. I understood where it was coming from, and I knew that the thing I had going for me was I was a household name. Whether people laughed or cried or spit bullets when they heard it, everybody knew who I was. So the challenge for me was really to turn the cognizance around to a positive one. And I knew that would happen only if I had the right product. And I'm not a quitter, so I hung in there, and I figured that one or two things would happen. Either I would find my niche, or I would just fade out into the horizon.
Did you ever want to quit? Did you ever want to throw the
I
towel
think
in?
you have days when you wake up and you say, oh, God, enough is enough, you know. But then you just keep on, because I really wouldn't know what I would do if I weren't working. I was raised that way ever since I was 6 years old. I was working. I don't know what to do around the house. I can't cook. I can't boil an egg. So this is my life.
Yeah, I understand, because I really love to work, and I don't know what I would do if I wasn't working. But you also do some special things. I interviewed you once before, about 2 years ago, before Katie, and at that time you were doing Lonely Lady.
Right.
You did something, you then went on the road to promote the movie, but you took time, and you wrote me a handwritten note thanking me for being on the show, telling me how much you enjoyed it. I have never gotten a note from anybody as nice, and most people don't write thank you notes. Do you do that all the time?
When I like somebody, I think that when you're a performer, it's important to establish a good relationship with press, and also for yourself as a person, because really you live a kind of a lonely life because you're always traveling. And when you meet somebody you like, I think you should tell them, and you should keep a rapport for both personal and professional reasons. And I enjoy doing that. I meet so many people now that I've corresponded with in the past, and you just meet them again and again, and they become friends eventually, some of them, which is a nice thing to have friends in every city or in every country. It's part of the way I do things.
Which is a special way of doing things, and I have to say, with the whole feeling of Pia Zadora in the past, and because you said you had a funny name, I've spent a lot of time defending you and saying, hey, wait a minute, this is a nice person.
Thank you. The greatest compliment I get from people who have been with me in the past, before when things were really tough, is that now, by doing so well, I'm vindicating them in the fact that they protected me when everybody else laughed in their faces, which is the nicest feeling, really.
Would you like to do more movies?
Eventually, but not right now. I'm going to stick to what I'm doing best.
You started singing in Europe, and that's when you did the single with Jermaine Jackson and P and Phil, which is a wonderful album.
Yeah.
Were the audiences different? Did you get a different response in Europe?
Well, the audiences are different. For me, it was more of a positive response, because at that time I was a pop star in Europe, and I was really nothing here. And I think that was because they didn't know me for being Michelle Imrickles's wife. You know, there wasn't that whole Golden Globe, Johnny Carson joke kind of a cognizance. They just knew me as a kid with a record, and you know, I was successful there.
Okay.
And I still have a good career.
We only have 60 seconds left. I mentioned the Golden Globe because I can't, and I shouldn't ask this at 60 seconds, but
it's up there in the other room. I'll take you to take a look at it later.
You deserved it. People said that you got that because you had a rich husband. That must have bothered you, but obviously, you know, it really. How did you feel?
It woke me up to a lot of things. It woke me up to jealousy, and it woke me up to the fact that it's going to be tough for me. And I think that it was good. It was a good thing. I think everything happens for the best as long as it ends well.
Well, I have to say, one of the songs that you sing in the closing of your Carnegie Hall concert, and it got a standing ovation, it said, "I am what I am." And I believe you are what you are, and that Pia Zadora has something to be very, very proud of, being what you are. And I thank you for being on my show.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you, and having us here, and having Katie here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Pia Zadora. I know that I certainly have, and I hope you join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.